Hi, this is Tuck. Just giving you a discussion on my latest Dragunity deck profile, which is 1.2, I believe. And I'm just going to talk today about the build and the consistency of it and why it is so consistent. I've played around with the Cerberals and a few different things like that, and like using Sangan to make it more consistent. And this is by far my favorite build so far. It's just that explosive and quick, and that's essentially what just wins the game. Because if you open a Stardust and you end turn, give your opponent 6 cards, they will 9 times out of 10 just get rid of it. With the meta at the moment, the release of all the different archetypes, 1 Stardust on the field is not enough. So that's where we use the support of Atum, because if we open with an Atum loop, we've got Stardust, Atum, and Red Eyes, gives you so many secondary plays with a special summoning of Atum and the Red Eyes to get back to that Stardust lockdown without using that normal summon. So anyway, start off with, we're going to talk about Dragon Ravine. It is the most important searcher in the entire deck. It is just magical. So we want to hit the Dragon Ravine, which is why we run 6 copies. And the chances of you hitting it is very high. Like, if you have a 40 card deck, and this deck is sitting at 40 cards, you draw 1 card, you have a 2.5% chance to hit any 1 card. So you've got a 2.5% chance to hit a Monster Reborn or a Foolish Burial. First turn, you draw 6. 6 times 2.5 is 15, so you have a 15% chance to hit your one-off cards. Run 6 copies, times by 6 again. You've got a 90% chance. I know not all these mathematics are 100% correct, but you've got a 90% chance to hit Dragon Ravine, which is why we're running 6 copies. Dragon Ravine with the combo of either Foolish, Zephyros, Mistletoe, Phalanx, or Ducks is an automatic 8-star synchro, which is awesome. But what I've tried to do with this build is make it so that it's just as consistent for me to hit a tool piece for the Attune loop as is for a Dragon Ravine. So if you hit a Zephyros, a Mistletoe, a Foolish, or a Monster Reborn, they're all tool pieces for the Attune loop. So 90% chance to draw a Dragon Ravine, 90% chance to draw a tool piece. If you do get the Dragon Ravine with the tool piece, you have a huge chance to hit the loop. Like, you don't need much manipulation with the Mistletoe or the Reborn to be able to hit the loop. And that's generally how I've tried to make the deck consistent, with the high number of tool pieces with a high number of ravines. But you're not always going to draw the ravine. So if you don't have the ravine, back in the old school days before the exceeds and that sort of thing, you've got the supporting combinations of your Phalanx and your Mistletoe, which, taking out 6 cards out of the 40 is a higher chance that you'll hit. So you can still make the 8-star synchro. Same thing on the other side, if you get a Ducks and a Foolish, you can make the 8. And that's pretty much how the old way worked. So they're your secondary ways to gain your 8 stars, and that's what I've done with the Foolish Burial. The Fendish Chain with the Zephyros. If you don't hit the Ravine, you can't just I don't like the idea that you have to rely on the Ravine to hit the Attune loop. So Fendish Chain just gives you another option of a way to hit the Attune loop. Because if you open with a set of Phalanx and a Fendish Chain, they try and roll over it with whatever. You stop them with a Fendish, and they end turn. You normally use Zephyros, sync to a Vajrayana, bounce the Fendish Chain back to hand, and you sit into that loop. And that's what you want to do with the deck. That's your win card. Then we are another way to sync into the Tomb Loop without the Fendish Chain, without the Dragon Ravine, is the Cards of Cons, which is an awesome card in the deck, because if you do get the Cards of Cons in your first turn, and you draw 6 cards and you play it, you've essentially drawn 8 out of 40. Like, the chances of you hitting a ravine or the tool pieces you need is huge. And that's why this deck is so consistently explosive. If you don't hit the ravine, you get a Kha'Zix with a Phalanx. You hit a Dux and a Mistletoe, you sit into the loop again. So that's where the deck is that consistent. Or even if you don't hit a Mistletoe, you go Cons off the Phalanx into a Dux and a Monster Reborn as the other 6 cards in your hand, which is higher chance. Then you reborn the Dux and you sit into the loop again. So all that is, like, the discussion is about the engine. So that's taking the assumption that you don't hit back row and hand traps and that sort of thing. If the loop is allowed to go off, that's what you do. So that is pretty much the deck. And my spell trap cards, if you have a look, is pretty much countering other cards to stop me getting into that loop, and that's pretty much it. Now, if you can't hit the Atum loop first turn, or you can't hit an 8-star synchro first turn, you're in a world of pain, and you've got to be able to do something second turn. So if you don't hit any of the engine in your first turn, and you're just playing off what you got, you've got to be able to actually have some form of chance for your second turn, because essentially, if Dragoonians don't open in their first turn, they have a hard time. If you don't do anything in your second turn, you should probably 9 times out of 10 you will lose, which is why the last 2 parts of the engine are pot of dualities. I think it is highly essential in this deck, because like I said, you have to hit the loop to generally win games, and if you don't, you lose. So duality just lets you go, here's 6 cards on my deck, I haven't hit what I need, I'll look at another 3. So you're looking at 9 cards out of 40 and grabbing the one that you want. If you don't hit a single terraforming ravine out of 40 cards when you've looked at 9, then you're just plain unlucky, and you'll need to go game 2. And duality is not a bad card, even if you do hit the loop when you duality into it. You duality into the ravine, you pitch the Phalanx for the Dux, you summon Dux and equip, you set your back row. If you haven't drawn into your engine, then you will have drawn into back row. So you can protect the Dux, you can special the Phalanx so he's Stardust, free of any back row. If you do hit one back row, you can go and grab another one. If you don't, you're safe. So that's pretty much it. So that's generally how I've tried to base the deck and keep it consistent. And yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think.